Welcome to CRE Success, the podcast, where we help people working in commercial real estate achieve their professional goals. Check us out online at cresuccess.co/podcast. And now here's your host, Darren Krakowiak.
Hello, this is episode 9 and I'm here to present content especially for people who work in commercial real estate. When I started this project, I did promise to deliver 10 episodes, and given this is episode 9, you may be wondering what is happening after our next episode. Well, stand by because I have some important news to share about that at the end of today's show. Before we do that, I must introduce today's guest. It's Michael Bull. Michael is someone who I've been following for many years. He's the host of America's Commercial Real Estate Show, which is the longest running radio show of its kind, which is also available all around the world as a podcast. He's been running his own very successful brokerage firm for the past 22 years. Plus, he also has his own suite of educational products that help people in commercial real estate be more successful. I realize that he's technically not in Asia Pacific, but I also know that you're really going to benefit from Michael's insights and you're going to love hearing his story. So I thought I would make an exception and use the broader APEC definition of geography, which includes the United States within Asia Pacific, and invite him to be part of the show. Michael Bull is standing by and my interview with him starts in 30 seconds. If you're interested in the flexible workplace boom that's happening right now across Australia, Hub Australia is one of the best operators with 7 beautiful sites in 4 capital cities. They offer premium workspaces with desks, offices and suites, and partner with landlords and corporate customers to provide and produce high quality workspaces, making sure their members love coming to work. If you have a client or partner looking for their next workspace or business opportunity, contact hello@hubaustralia.com or visit hubaustralia.com.
And now it's time for the interview on CRE Success, the podcast.
Michael, welcome to CRE Success, the podcast.
Thank you.
Michael, the first thing we do is we ask our guests to step into the virtual elevator so they can give us their, if you like, elevator pitch. So, Michael, who are you?
Okay, well, great. Well, first, I guess Bull Realty. I'm a commercial broker, and I've been in business for 35 years, and that's what I've done all my life. And I own a company called Bull Realty that's headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a licensed broker in 9 Southeast states around the U.S., and we have a company that sells office buildings, shopping centers, hotels, all sorts of things around the U.S. And then I have a show that I started 10 years ago called America's Commercial Real Estate Show. And it's the biggest show in the States about commercial real estate. And then 2 years ago, I started a company, commercialagentsuccess.com, that supplies video training for commercial agents around the world. And it's 21 one-hour videos of incredible agent training. It's all in the cloud thing. So that's kind of the 3 things I do.
You're a busy guy.
Try to stay busy.
So how did you get started in commercial real estate? What got you into the industry and why did you land there?
I was going to school at night. A friend told me I needed a job during the day. And a friend told me about a job that said the hardest thing you have to do is take out the trash once a day. I'm like, okay, I like that. And it was leasing apartments for an apartment rental company. And I got there and they taught me how to do that and taught me how to do everything on management. And then a company hired me to run their management company, 20 years old. And I did that, got my license, and I tripled the size of that company while I was in school. And then at 22, I became a commission-only salesperson. My first sale was when I was 19. I sold a 20-unit apartment building. And so that's kind of how I got started in the commercial real estate business, was managing it, operating it, renovating it, and then became a broker at a very young age.
What's your favorite thing about working in commercial real estate?
I think it's the people and, the ability to add value to people and to the companies and, to help people and companies make money and to help them save money and to just really seriously add value, to these companies. And you also have kind of a variety of people and properties and you're out and about, I remember part-time when I was really young, I bartended, and I was at this bartending bar for 4 hours in this one little area. And I thought, oh man, this is awful. You know what we do. It's fun. We're out with different properties and people. We're always learning and always growing. And it's fun to really do a great job for people, and have them really appreciate you.
So you're a 30-plus year veteran of the industry. You've been through several economic cycles. You've seen the impact of things like technological change and obviously run your own successful real estate practice, as you mentioned, since 1998. And I say all that not to pump up your tires, but just to demonstrate that you have a broad perspective. So I'd like to ask you, what's changed and what stayed the same during your working life?
Well, I guess what's changed has really been the technology. The technology we use to market properties, to research properties, our operations, our communications. I can tell you back in the day, being at a closing and you needed something and the closing stopped. I mean, I was doing this before fax machines were out. So, over the years, the changing technology, and I've really always been into the technology, and always tried to stay really at the latest, with the latest technology. So that's been real fun to see happen. I think what stayed the same is the skills, the sales skills, the negotiation skills. It's still a people business, a relationship business. It's still a reputation business, and people say, Michael, what book should I read if I'm a commercial agent? And I'd say, well, sales books. And they say, so maybe like the latest one that's selling right now? No. You can get the best sales books of all time that have to do with any type of sales, and they're fantastic.
Can you name a couple of the books that you would recommend to somebody if they wanted to up their skills in sales?
I think some of the big Zig Ziglars and, the Stephen Coveys, I think if you just look at the top selling sales books of all time, that's the ones I would read, and I would read them over and over again. I see some people get into becoming a commercial agent, and they start reading about investing in real estate and all of that. And that's not the biggest skill that you need to learn. We're salespeople, we're negotiators. And so we need to learn how to run a business, build it, make it efficient. And we need to learn how to sell and negotiate.
Right. So there's negotiation and sales skills, which ultimately are people skills as well.
Yeah, they sure are. And then you think of time management, I'd throw that in there as well. As it's all about how effective we can be in a small amount of time.
So let's talk about leadership. You lead a team of about 35 brokers, I believe, plus additional staff who are across 9 states, I believe. Given your experience, what do you think is one or more attributes that makes a great leader?
I think just the sincere desire to help people and to add value to the people around you. I've often thought about that, and what I tell some of my brokers is this saying, and I think I came up with this. I don't think I dreamed this or read this and then thought I came up with it. I think it's mine, but it's this: the more you add value to the people's lives around you, the more it adds value to your life. If you think about that, if you add value to the people around you, then it's going to add value to your life. It's going to enrich you. It's going to build your relationships, your network, your reputation. You help people like making money it goes around, comes around.
So on the flip side, what's the most challenging part of running a national team?
Well, I think it's just really as the company grows. I mean, we have about 50 people, and as the company has continued to grow, it's really just trying to keep the culture, the high quality, the messaging. I started the company for 2 reasons. And one was that we'd be known, if you used our company name, we'd be known for integrity, and we'd be known for the best disposition marketing in the country. And I think those 2 things would really help drive us to be successful and kind of help us make decisions every day, right? If you use integrity in your business and then you try to be the best that you can be that does what you do and add the integrity, then you'll do the right thing. So, I think having a bunch of brokers and staff, I'm really into training myself and training my folks. My brokers who run the plays, that take in the training I give them, they do extremely well. I mean, they're just really great brokers and they do really, really well. Then I'll see some guys that, you think about commercial brokers where we're confident as a general rule, right? And we're social. And we think we know everything, and we don't accept training well enough. And I think that's one of the challenges that brokers have is we think we know everything. And I've always known that I know nothing. I know I need to learn and grow all the time and get better. And I think that's one of the great things about this business. There's no end to how skilled you can be, and there's no limit to your income. So the most challenging thing is helping guys realize and ladies realize that, don't stop training, just keep trying to get better all the time.
Can you explain to to us why you decided to become an industry resource for your peers.
Yes, so the radio show started off as an idea to be basically a marketing venue for my company at Bull Realty. At the time, we were more local, and we started on one radio station in Atlanta, and it quickly grew. It grew to 60 radio stations around the country, and then it became one of the top show around the country. So it started off as just a marketing piece for my firm, and then it just grew into something a lot larger. I've always bought all the training for commercial agents that I could ever find from anyone, and because I just realized the value to myself and to my guys of having that training and constantly repeating it, and just so the best practices become innate to you. And I saw there was a big hole in the training. I mean, there's not good training for negotiating and building your practice and overcoming objections and help sellers understand the value of proper pricing. And I kept searching for these kinds of training. And when I did find it was just so disappointing that I had to start creating it. And I kept creating it, improving it. And then finally I said, well, one day when I get old, I'll produce this and let people around the world benefit from it. And then I realized I was getting old and I better go ahead and do it. So that's what happened. And now it's online and people license them. And the most experienced brokers at the biggest companies, they almost don't want to see it. And then somehow they'll see it because they went in with the next gen or the younger guys and they're just rant and rave over it. It's pretty high quality and there wasn't anything out there. So that's why I did it. I had to for myself and then started sharing it.
Oh, well done. So back to the podcast or the radio show. Did it start as a radio show or did it start as a podcast?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it started as a radio show and we recorded it and we put it out as a podcast even 10 years ago. And then it grew to 60 radio stations and I still put it out as a podcast. So on some of the podcast systems, you can actually hear my first show I did 10 years ago.
Let's touch on the coronavirus. I'd love to hear your opinion on how you think the current crisis compares to other economic slowdowns that you've experienced and what you think the biggest impacts are or will be for our industry.
One of the things that could happen is this could be a shorter turnaround than we saw back in 08, 09, because we have stronger banks, we have lower interest rates. I think there's more dry powder out there, and I think we have lower loan-to-value ratios on the properties. And with the low rates, I think there's a lot of people that like to follow the cycles to buy and sell. And I think, there'll be some opportunities, especially in hotels and in retail. But I think some of the other sectors, there won't be, that real dip in values that some investors like to try to find. So I'm hopeful that the recovery is shorter than the last one. And I think people and companies are going to become more budget conscious. So I think companies are going to, moving forward, will be a lot more concerned about the bottom line. And we talk about real estate, they're going to really look at their occupancy costs really closely. And I think, they might in some cases not cram into the cities in the central business district, and they may go to the suburban offices to both reduce costs, potentially get closer to some of their employees and get larger space. So there's less square footage per person has kind of been what's been going on around the country. And I think we'll see that now where people say, look, let's go back to, let's not go to 100 square feet per person. Let's go to 300 or 400. I think it'll change some of the attitudes and things of companies. And I'm hopeful that it's just going to be shorter because of the liquidity and the interest rates and things this time around.
So what would you advise people to focus on right now when you're in the middle of a crisis and it seems like there's no end in sight or no light at the end of the tunnel? What should people focus on right now to ensure they're, prepared for when the crisis does inevitably end?
I think just be as active as possible. I can tell you I went through a terrible recession, my first one. I've been doing this for 35 years, and I was just rocking along as a young agent, doing really well. The world kind of just stopped, and I focused on mainly apartments, and all of a sudden they were all foreclosed. It was like a light switch. They changed the tax angles on them, and all of a sudden the values all plummeted. All my deals cratered, and I really went into depression. I would call it depression for 2 solid weeks. It was like, oh no, what's going on? My life's over. But then I snapped out of it. And what I did was I got extremely busy and became extremely efficient, and I concentrated on my business, my practice, my prospecting, my skills. I became a much better broker. I would have still been the piece of crap agent just going through the motions if that had never happened to me. So I think, when this happens, it's the time that we should really step up, and that we have to, right? A lot of us just don't have a choice. We go from working maybe 4 quality hours a day to 14, and we go to just working in the business every day to also working on the business and figuring out what are our best practices. And like my training sales, we were talking about before, the training sales that I do at commercialagencysuccess.com have really expanded. I mean, there's a lot of people realizing, hey, this is time to train and get better. And I think that's one of the things that can happen for commercial real estate people that are in any type of sales or vendor kind of relationship, is that this can make us a lot better at what we do. And I think that's what can come out of this. And it's what it did for me in the past. And my business has always grown in downturns. Every time they've happened, while I may have had a pause during it, my business really had the biggest catapults, the biggest jumps in revenues that continued on after recessions or during the middle of recession, when people are looking harder at who to use. I've always done better. So when the market's really hot and it doesn't really matter who they use to sell something, it kind of seems to be harder to win market share. So I think it's a time people need to realize this is a time you can really build your business, get really busy, get really active, and run your plays.
Let's talk about the topic of success. It seems like you have some specific strategies that you would employ to do deliberately and consistently to ensure you give yourself the best opportunity to succeed in your profession. What are some of those strategies that you have to make sure that you're in the best position to succeed?
Well, thinking about it as a commercial real estate agent, I think it's training constantly and not thinking that we know everything, not thinking that we can't get better. And the other one is consistent prospecting that's done the right way. I remember having an agent that had a team, and she came in that was wanting to work at my shop, and she was really proud of the prospecting she'd done for like 4 hours before she came to see me. And I felt sorry for her because really what she did hurt her reputation and her firm's, and she just wasn't doing it right, and I felt sorry for her. But it's so I think just consistent prospecting and then consistent training are the two big things I would say to help agents and people who do what we do and be more successful.
So if people aren't in a position where they can ask someone, or they don't have someone looking over their shoulder to give them that feedback that they're not doing it right, what are some of the signals that they can see to understand that, hey, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah, so I think, as a trained salesperson, we really always looking at the audience, if you will, or the person that we're talking to, and we're looking for feedback, and you get the feedback, and you really know. You can tell if you're talking to someone and they lose interest. You can tell by their body movements and their eyes and their posture. And then when you don't win something, what I always like to do if I'm in a bake-off or beauty contest, whatever you can call it, where brokers are competing, is, if I can, I go back if I lost it and I ask, say, hey, what could I have done better? I think you don't want to look at it as a win or a loss. I think you want to look at it as a win or a learn. And so if you're constantly trying to get better, and then one of the tricks I've always done, if you call it a trick, is when things don't go well, I always blame it on myself. I don't blame it on the market. I don't blame it on the client. Because, one of the worst things I think that happens in our business is when we know a client should do something and we can't get them to do it. And, and I think I look inside and I go, all right, that's my problem. I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't pre-manage it properly. I don't know enough about what's going on. I haven't developed my sales skills enough. And if you blame yourself, then you'll always just get better at things.
I think another way of saying blame yourself is take responsibility.
Absolutely. And because you've heard it, and people go, oh, it was a terrible client or a terrible market, or it's a terrible property. No, every property is sellable. It's really there's a bad person selling it.
when you ask someone, how's the market? It depends who you ask. If someone's doing well, it's great. If they're not doing so well, they might be blaming the market for their lack of success.
And I'll give you an answer to that I have a lot of answers to things that clients ask in my training that are gold. And one of the questions is that, and, I hear a lot of agents will sometimes say, oh, the market's pretty good. There's a lot of buyers in the market, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is what you really should say. Like I told you, I sell office buildings in Atlanta. I lead a team, not Atlanta, in the U.S. We sell large office buildings. So when somebody says, well, how's the market? I can say, well, there's been 182 sales of office buildings in the U.S. over 50,000 square feet. In the Class A properties, the average cap rate was 5.8%, and the average cap rate for B and C project was 7.2. And they look at me and go, oh, okay, I got my guy.
It's an objective statement. It shows that you know the market.
Right. Instead of just saying, it's a good time to sell. It's like, what? That way, and you can learn whatever sector and space and area and geographic area. If you study that and track all the sales and then you just update it quarterly, then you can come up with statements like that just get people's attention at hello.
Instant credibility builders. Very good.
Absolutely.
So let's say little Johnny comes into your office and he's 1 year into his commercial real estate broking life and he says, Michael, what's the one thing that I should do to succeed? What do you tell little Johnny?
If I had to pick one thing, I would say it's consistent prospecting, because you always want to have, some people don't prospect, so they say they don't have time. And, and so they're not improving their lot in life, right? So have you ever had to get a price on doing some work around your property, your home, and the contractor gives you a high price, and then you ask him, hey, this seems a little high, and the contractor looks at you and you say, yeah, well, I have a lot of business right now, so yes, it is high. If you want me, that's what I charge. When you think about that as a broker, if you've got enough opportunities because you're properly prospecting all the time, you're going to be able to work with more motivated clients. People price, their expectations are more proper, fees more proper, the agreements you work through more proper because you have more opportunities, right? So I think having a daily prospecting goal and a daily prospecting minimum that you do every day. And one of the things I've found about that is have the minimum that's low enough that you can get to it every day, no matter what. One day I had a really good day. I sold 5 apartment complexes in one day. And this was before I owned my company. I was an agent and I had 3 assistants that were for me. And I went to those closings. I was around all day, and I came back in the office about 5:30, and I went to my desk and I picked up the phone and started to make some calls. And a couple of the girls that were assistants, they came to my front office and said, "What are you doing?" "What do you mean what I'm doing? I work here. I'm making my dials." And they said, "We just thought that since you had a good day," they figured out what I'd made that day. And I said, no, look, I don't know that every deal I have under contract that half or probably could cancel and the other half get delayed. I know I have to make my daily calls. Get out of here, leave me alone. And so I think when you get to that point in your career where you've hit these minimums no matter what, it's almost hard not to be successful. That's the number one thing I would say.
Love that. Awesome advice. All right. Now, people might be curious to have a look at your LinkedIn profile. And I saw something on your profile I've never seen on any other profile on LinkedIn, let alone on the profile of a commercial real estate professional. And that is a stand-up comedy routine. Was that a one-off, or do you regularly moonlight in comedy clubs around the US?
No, my company would not let me do it regularly because I'd say something and they get me fired, even though I'm the CEO. So what happened was, as I've mentioned, I'm continually trained all my career, and I just think it's a big part of success. You know, when you can train and have coaching and just continually improve yourself in a business like ours that has no limit on your income, why wouldn't you, right? So I like stand-up comedy, and I got to a club a little early, and I was sitting at the bar waiting for the show to start, and I saw this little pamphlet on going to a class to learn how to do stand-up comedy. And part of it in there said, look, even if you never planned to be a stand-up comedian, it'll really teach you how to sell and to do presentations. And I thought, you know what? That's great. So I took the class, and they teach you how to write comedy. They teach you how to present the comedy and how to be on stage. And you can't do jokey jokes. You can't cuss, and you can't touch yourself. And my wife said I couldn't do wife jokes. So that's, well, what's left? But anyway, you have to write your own things. So you really learn a lot about economy of words, about delivery. So I found it to be really good sales training. And I speak in front of large groups, and I can tell you it was a lot more scary being in a comedy club where the mission was to make people laugh than it's been for me to be in front of hundreds and hundreds of people talking about commercial real estate training and commercial real estate in general. So it is a little bit scary, but it's a great experience, and I recommend it.
Michael, you've given us so much value during this interview. So I'd like to get one more piece of value from you, which is just to talk about work-life balance, and what strategies you have in place to make sure that you can have the time for your numerous responsibilities at work, but also your various personal interests and family.
My challenge, Darren, when I was young as an agent, was actually stopping. I mean, I found it so fun to sell investment properties that I never wanted to stop because, I'm on the East Coast here of the U.S. Well, my client's on the West Coast. So I can really start working at 8 a.m. and not finish until 9 or 10 p.m. And not to mention all the other research and marketing and underwriting and all the things you could do off hours. So my challenge was really just stopping and learning to stop. And one day I was working and I thought, look, I'm doing pretty well, but I'm not doing as well as some of the agents I read about around the country. And I studied them more and more. And one thing I found is, to your work-life balance question, was a lot of these people that made the ultra high income did have times that they took off and did things. And I read about this one lady that works 3 weeks of the month, 12, 14 hours a day for 3 weeks through the weekend and everything. And then she took off 1 week and the 2 weekends a month and traveled the world. So this lady was traveling the world every month. And then she was coming back and doing her real estate business and working it every day she was here. She was doing it. And I thought, wow, that is so awesome. So what I started doing was taking off every Friday at 5 p.m. and then not working until Monday at 9 a.m. And for me, that was hard. And for me, that was a vacation. And I got a second home at a nearby lake and toys and boats and stuff, and started to say, I'm going to be a weekend fun guy. And when clients want me to do something, I'm going to say, I already have a commitment. My schedule's tied up. I don't tell them I'm on a boat drinking a beer.
So it sounds like there's two positions, on and off, and you've just got to know when that switch should be off.
During the week, it's just being on all week, from exercise to business. I'm okay with that all week. And then because I know on the weekends, I'm going to relax and have a good time. And when I have a good time, I like to have a good time. I like to play hard and make sure I'm having fun. I'm not sitting on the beach with my toes in the sand. I'm driving a performance boat or a performance bike or off-road vehicles. Because our business is so fun. If I'm not having fun when I'm off, I'm going to go back to work.
Michael, you've really delivered so much value for the listeners on this podcast. I'd like to say thank you for being with us here on CRE Success, the podcast.
I'm glad to do it, Darren. Thanks for having me.
For more information about our guest, visit cresuccess.co/podcast. And now, a final thought from Darren Krakowiak.
If you'd like to learn more about Michael and how he helps people in commercial real estate, make sure you visit his website, commercialagentsuccess.com. All right, at the top of the show, I teased that I have an announcement to make about our podcast, so here it is. We are extending Season 1 for another 10 episodes, which will take us through towards the end of 2020. This is possible thanks to a sponsor having committed to back the show, and it's also thanks to your feedback and the fact that you have have listened. I am convinced that I'm not just talking to myself and that we are adding value to the industry. So another 10 episodes means that we need more guests. If you have any ideas on people you'd like to hear on the show, drop me a line via LinkedIn, Instagram, or send an email, darren@cresuccess.co. That's the show for this week. Thanks for listening, and I will speak to you soon.
Thanks for listening to CRE Success, the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to us on your favourite podcast platform and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. For more information about the show, just check the show notes on your podcast app or visit us online at cresuccess.co.
Your workplace is a place for collaboration, for communication, and inspiration. As experts in workplace, Unispace knows that no two businesses are the same, and the journey to creating your best and most productive space starts with you. Unispace's in-house strategy team provides workplace assessments. They use data to ensure your space is designed to enable maximum productivity and is a place your staff want to be, not just have to be. Visit unispace.com to reinvigorate your workplace.